Hello everyone, my name is Peter and this is a video of me making a dining table. The goal of this video is to show you my process of designing and making my own furniture with the tools that I have available. Also to share some tips and tricks along the way and to inspire you for woodworking. The process starts with raw lumber from a local lumberyard. I'm using my cut list from a CAD model to optimize the layout of the pieces. This takes a few minutes, but it's worth it if you want to minimize the offcuts and the wasted material. Because I don't have a bandsaw, the idea here is to cut the pieces oversized with a circular saw and then get the precise dimensions on the jointer and the planer which I have available. This way I don't have to bother with any straight edge guide. I learned that I can follow the pencil line that I draw to within a few millimeters. So this is the jointer that I was talking about. Basically here you make one face flat and also one edge perpendicular to this face. As you can see, I'm taking multiple shallow passes rather than one deep because I'm using quite a hardwood. I'm using beech, which is quite common here in Central Europe, and I like it for its simplicity. Its grain is really plain and uniform, and it doesn't have any colorful figuring. Here the bottom side of the machine is the planer, and it makes faces parallel to the ones created before. So in the end, I'm left with boards that have perfectly a rectangular cross section. So let's start working on the tabletop. It's created by gluing four large and thick pieces. The boards are 5 centimeters thick, and the finished thickness of the tabletop will be around 4 centimeters. This glue up was probably the most stressful part of the entire build. For example, here I decided not to glue the table to my clamps, but other than that, it went quite well. All the clamps I'm using are homemade, but they provide plenty of force and they are made in a way that they can be first tightened by a drill and then hand tightened by a wrench. The tabletop was reasonably flat, but still had some low spots, and I wasn't happy with the shape. The main reason was that the edges were not jointed perfectly at 90 degrees, so the boards were glued at an angle. They formed kind of W shape. One was going up, one was going down. So that's why I wanted to try a thing that I have never tried before, and that is to create a router sled. Now there are many videos on YouTube explaining how to make it and how it works, but basically it's just a channel for the router to move in and two straight boards. and you move the router back and forth to create a flat reference plane. I think I did 3 passes, and each of them with 1 mm depth of cut, and each pass took about 10 minutes. And the result was really flat. However, the surface finish wasn't really good. I had to later do a lot of sanding to remove the router marks. Next on the list is to square the tabletop with a circular saw and then start working on the breadboard ends. There should be an image on the screen now showing their geometry. It's basically one long mortise and tenon joint, and they keep the tabletop from cupping, shown by the arrows, while at the same time allowing for seasonal contraction and expansion movement of the wood in this direction. And I decided to put them also in from the aesthetic point of view because they hide the end grain and they kind of make the table look more complete. I'm using 3 tenons and they are made with a router and a jigsaw, and their corresponding mortises are slightly wider to allow for the movement. I think they were like 1 centimeter wider or maybe 5 millimeters, something like that, and I cut them on my router table. The elongated holes or slots are what actually makes the movement possible. There are many ways how you can make them. You can use a rasp, a file, a router, a milling machine, jigsaw, why not? But I found the easiest and fastest way to be by tilting the drill. It looks dangerous, but it really isn't if you know how to do it. As I was explaining before, I am only securing permanently with glue the middle part. Now, during this project, I even learned a few life lessons, like this one. If you find yourself in a situation where brute force doesn't work out, it's just not the right solution, like here, the rubber mallet, then you have to use even bigger force. The underside and the top side also had some rotten areas that had to be removed, so I drilled them out, cleaned them, and filled them with clear epoxy resin. First, I applied one penetrating coat of epoxy, and after 24 hours, I filled the void with 2 layers of pouring epoxy. There are a few more steps left for the tabletop. One of them is the edge profile, where I decided to use the so-called shark nose. It's a round over on the top, and about a 30-degree bevel on the bottom. And the other one is sanding, and a lot of it. I usually start with 60 grit sandpaper on the drill, which is for me the fastest way to remove most of the material. Then I move on to 100 grit, then 150 with my vibration sander, and finally 220 grit with hand sanding. I think there's really no need to go any further than that. Seeing the grain popping up and wood changing color is perhaps my favorite part. I decided to use quite thick furniture lacquer because it's a dining table and I expect to see a lot of stains and coffee spills and whatnot from the customer, my family. So this way, it should be really easy to just wipe it off and clean it, but time will tell if this was a good idea. I did 3 coats on the top side and 2 coats on the bottom side and legs, while hand sanding with 220 grit in between coats. Of course, the legs aren't even built yet. That will be the content of the next video of this dining table series. So see you there, but until then, have a beautiful day. Bye bye.